God.
You got an agenda?
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, yeah. No paper agenda?
Okay.
No.
What's paper anyway? It's like a 20th century
Oh, thanks
thing.
for.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks,
That's
Dave.
very kind of you. Remember, paper, I think they called it paper.
Right. Yeah,
All right. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the hectic start here, but that's all right. Comes with the business. So
Should we tell Lynn if she's on here that we're? I thought I saw her.
yeah, we'll do that in just a minute. Annie, are you out there?
I am here.
Hey, can you do us the favor of providing roll call for us?
Most certainly. I have myself, Annie Cathy, Adrian Beck, Allison France, Andrew Chorney, Ann Hughes, Brian West, Casey Gannon, Chet Krauser, Chris Lounsbury, Elena Evans, Emily Brock, Emmy Bristow, Erica Grindy, Jason Emery, Jason Hauser, John Hart, Josh Slotnick, Karen Harrison, Kyla Leonards, Melissa Fisher, Connor McCauley, Leidy Wagner, Lynn Fagan, MCAT, and I have somebody on the phone ending in 7521. Could I grab your name for roll call? The person calling in 7521, could I get your name for the roll call?
Tammy New.
Thank you, Cami. All right, Dave, I'll let you take it over.
Okay, thanks. And we're going to take item number 10 out of order here, the Airport Authority Board. But before we do so, is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda? Anyone want to comment on anything not on the agenda? I will say, if you have not seen it, catch out the front page of the Missoulian today. There was a story about Tip of the Spear, our commissioner podcast. Big thanks to our communication staff who played a huge role in pulling this together. If you've not checked out our podcast, dive in.
It's good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, good work, CommSports.
So the Airport Authority Board appointment, the reason we want to move this up is I am not sure that we are quite ready to pull the trigger on this. Lynn, I guess we'd love to hear from you briefly if you have any insight in terms of needs of the board, but we could probably use a little extra time on our end to review the multiple applicants for the one position I believe we're appointing for.
Sure. Yeah, you certainly did get a 5 great applicants this year. I just went over all the applications and names and reviewed them yesterday after our last interview, and they all were very well qualified, and I can see why you might want some more time. From the airport's perspective, I think, I would say Jack Meyer and David Bell are the 2 that kind of stand out to me because of their interaction with the airport and the board in the past. Of course, Jack has got a long history with the board. David Bell has some interaction with us. He worked very hard with us a few years ago on the airline incentive program to help get American here, and it's been very successful. So that's a kind of a plus in his favor on our end. And I believe it's his second time applying to be on the board. So, from our perspective, he's got, a lot of connections in the community, and just kind of shows the 2 of them have made some effort to interact. The other 3 obviously are all great candidates as well, and all have good background. I wouldn't say there's anything that stands out amongst the 5 of them that is something that we really, need on the board. But those would be the 2 that we feel, we would know better and have a little bit of background that wouldn't need as much hand holding, I guess, in the beginning. So.
Well, what do you think, Josh and Juanita?
That's helpful, and
It is really helpful. Given that, I'm okay making a vote.
yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
Lynn, this is,
That was
thank
really
you so
helpful, and
much.
we needed your input to make a decision.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you guys allow me to attend the interviews, and I think it's a great opportunity to meet community members, and you guys have so many boards. At first I thought it is, I'm sure, overwhelming for you, but also a great opportunity for you guys to meet the different community members. So thank you for that opportunity for me.
No, we value your expertise. We do not pretend to understand all things airport without you.
Which goes against our first tendency to appoint someone
Just make things up on the fly.
Yeah, but, well, if you'd like to entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
I would move Dave Bell.
Yeah, second.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion or public comment on appointing Dave Bell to the Missoula Airport
Only
Board?
thing I'd like to add was there are some folks we interviewed as part of this process. I cannot remember the gentleman's name from yesterday who has been involved with major airports across the globe as an engineer for his entire career. And if there is some way you guys can rope these folks in, maybe on specific ad hoc committees or inviting them to discussions where you feel like their expertise would be helpful. I mean, they are offering a fantastic and otherwise really expensive resource in terms of their skills and abilities. And I would encourage you to not just let them slip away with a form letter saying, sorry, no, didn't work.
Yeah.
And Kyla, I neglected to give you the opportunity to provide a staff report for this. So go ahead.
So I just have a question. We have a second alternate vacancy through 12/31/2025, and then we have a regular term vacancy that expires 12/31/2021. We had the current member, Matt, submit his letter of interest and is eligible for reappointment.
Oh, yeah.
So there's actually 2 terms to fill. So I'm wondering which appointment you were appointing that.
Oh, that'd be, oh,
Thanks,
sorry, I don't
Tyler.
know.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Linda, help us out.
Well, how about we move up the alternate into the full position
That is
and then
that is the traditional
Wait,
move. Yeah.
Well, I
And that
watched
has actually been done, commissioners. We did that about a
Right.
month ago.
Right.
So that's
Okay.
why there's a second alternate opening. And then Matt's term just expires at the end of December. So you have the option to reappoint Matt or appoint one of the new applicants to that full term seat.
So it would be
So-
reappoint Matt
We're
and
gonna
then,
reappoint
and
Matt,
then
yeah,
Bell would be
yeah.
the alternate.
There you go. Juan just said it.
Thank you.
okay. That is the motion to reappoint Matt and to appoint Dave Bell to the alternate.
There you go. I will
Alternate.
second that.
Okay.
Lynn, does that work?
Does that work?
That works. Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been amended, seconded by Juanita. Any further discussion or comment? See none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and as Josh mentioned, yeah, please give an effusive follow-up letter to all the folks who we did not appoint today and thank them and encourage them to stay engaged.
Stay engaged,
Absolutely, and,
yep.
and that would be on Kyla, but Lynn, if you want to reach out to any of those specific folks who you feel like, I mean, there was some engineering expertise there that
Yeah.
you do not want to skip out on when offered for free.
Right, exactly. I agree. That was, Michael Schwartz from yesterday. He was very, very good. So,
Such an impressive character.
yeah, for sure.
All right, thanks, Lynn, appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Glad we were able to work through that. Nice
Okay,
job.
Thank
I'll have to hold that
you.
up. All right,
You guys
Very
have
good.
a
Let's
good
go back.
holiday. Thanks.
You
All right,
too.
you
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
let's go back to item number 1. Leidy, please talk to us about the Big Sky Trust Fund grant and Bedrock Sandals.
Great, good morning. So this is just a request to reimburse Bedrock $30,000 for 4 new hires that they've made recently, which brings their hiring total to 7 under this grant of their 9 that they need to fulfill. Because we have already done a draw for them in 2020.
I still need to,
I believe
Purchase
Dave has some.
I know,
I do have bedrock sandals,
Do you?
yes.
I do not.
I know, I need to get on it, so.
You know,
I got some this summer too.
Shred my feet. So.
I move that the board, approve the request for payment, form for Big Sky Trust Fund grant award to assist Bedrock Sandals.
Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks, Lottie.
Thank you.
Sean,
Excuse me, I need to go pull up my nose.
Okay, Sean Kendall, PSA, you're bringing before us.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So yeah, as you well know, we recently we're in the process of moving our COVID facilities from Lucky's and Flynn Lane out to the West Broadway Clinic. And what we need is just a PSA for janitorial services so we can keep the place clean. It's a 5-month contract with option to extend up to a year, depending on how long we are out there. $24.56 a month is the cost, which represents about a 75% reduction in the cost of the current contracts we are running, mostly because we're reducing our space and footprint. So that $24.56 does not include consumables, as most contracts do not. So those are also included in the cost, well, not included in the cost, but included in the PSA at the rate as listed on page 11 of the PSA. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to feel free to ask away. I realize you guys probably just got this morning, as it's been a work in progress. So
Okay, I've been eagerly awaiting this for weeks.
I'm just glad there are people out there that
Exactly.
do this work. My goodness.
Yes.
I'm now hiring sign everywhere. Thrilled that you can make this happen. That's a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion to authorize the chair to sign the PSA? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, guys. Happy holidays.
Holidays to you. Elena Evans, a collection agreement for the Missoula Valley Water Quality District to sponsor and administer a $28,600 grant from DNRC. Okay, is there anyone from the Water Quality District here? Oh, there you are.
Hi, sorry about that. Yep, I'm here and I'm bringing to you a collection agreement with the Lolo Watershed Group. This is we entered into a contract, I think in 2020 for a DNRC watershed management grant, and it wasn't supposed to exceed $10,000, but they have since added more funds to support the work of the Lolo Watershed Group, and therefore we need to put in place a collection agreement to fulfill that grant and continue to disperse funds.
So it's collection of money. Yes,
Indeed.
collection of water. Okay.
Yeah, when you say water.
I mean, they are collecting a bit of water in the process, but yes, mostly they're collecting funds to enable the watershed group to continue.
Okay.
I move that the board approve the chair sign the collection agreement for Missoula Valley Water Quality District.
I will second that.
And keep up their great work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any further discussion or public comment on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Elena. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Elena.
Chris Lonsberry, temporary 90 days for the River's Edge psychotherapy contract for road court.
Yes, I have the next two items. So commissioners, this first item is just a 90-day extension of the existing professional services agreement that Road Court, which as a reminder is the DUI court run by Judge Holloway in Justice Court. It's been very successful. So this is an extension of that to
What's the acronym?
Unfortunately, Judge Holloway is not with us. It is an acronym, but I do not know.
Advising, opportunity, and driving.
You're so close. It is something like that. Responsibility?
Responsible.
Does anyone on the line know what
it's embarrassing.
ROAD stands for?
Yeah, Brian West is there. Okay, I'm
Okay.
embarrassed. I'm going after this. Oh, there we, thanks, Allison.
Responsibility, opportunity, accountability for drivers. Thank
There.
goodness for Allison. She's good at the Google.
Thank you.
She says, I think in parentheses. So,
I'm gonna take it.
Thank
it's
you,
like-
but this is a fantastic program.
Yeah.
So continue on, Chris.
Yeah, so this is just an extension to get them into the next calendar year when they will do their evaluation again of road court and determine what services they need. So this is just that short extension to get them through that period.
Okay.
Oh, but Brian is on, so he might have something.
Well, I apologize, commissioners. Hard part about a Teams meeting is you can't see when somebody on the side has contacted you. Chris has already established what this is. It is a temporary renewal for the existing provider for the road court while they reestablish what it is they're going to do. So I'm sorry I wasn't available when he asked.
We were
all
looking
good.
to make sure on the road acronym if you remembered what those were.
Oh, I think Allison has it
Brian.
correct. Responsibility, opportunity, accountability for drivers.
There
We'll
you go.
verify that with Judge Holloway and have an update for the commission soon.
Okay, anyone want to move the extension?
I'll move the extension.
Second.
Further discussion on the extension? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next road court item, Chris.
Yes, so commissioners, this actually is a grant that the county received last year. In going through the paperwork, Judge Holloway noticed that on the contract, they had the wrong signature line. So we've been receiving the funds all along. This is just updating it so it has the correct signature line and that it will be signed by the commission. So this is a grant that Judge Holloway applied for, was successful in obtaining the funding for that, started back in October of last year and runs through September 30th of 2023. This just gets the correct signatures onto that grant for road court.
Has someone been forging our signatures?
No, it originally came with Judge Holloway as the signer. So
That's what I suspect.
No one is back on
Well,
that.
let's fix that
Let's
signature
get
line
it straight.
then. I motion that the board approve the Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant.
I'll second that.
Okay. Fix the signature line.
Fix the signature line.
And any further discussion or public comment on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
thank you, commissioners.
Adrian Beck, lease with DNRC and let's see. Utilize and access Mount Sentinel Public Safety Radio Communication Site for 5 years.
Perfect. You just said what I needed to say. Yeah, essentially, most of the sites where we have our public safety communications towers and buildings are not owned by the county. And in this particular case, the Mount Sentinel site is on Department of Natural Resources and Conservation ground. As is typical with any of our sites, we do have a lease and lease payments for utilization of those sites. And so what you have before you today is a renewal of our existing lease with updated language for a 5-year term.
Okay. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, $3,886 per year seems like a good deal for keeping everyone safe and having 911 work. So yeah, I would move that the board authorize renewal of the lease.
Second.
Any further discussion, recognizing that they are stiffing us with this $50 application fee?
Seem like a.
I don't know.
Like, who else is going to apply?
Yeah. Any public comment on this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
You too, thank you.
They're going to have to do a credit check on us.
Yes, I know.
Did we get some recommendations? References? We need references.
Jason Hauser, PSA with Tempride.
Yeah, so this is a professional service agreement request for the water heater / boiler replacement out of the detention center. They'll be removing 5 boilers and the boiler mates that go along with it and replacing them with 6 for MES 1, MES 2, and MES 3. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a huge project.
It's very big, and it's also awesome. We're going from atmospheric vented boilers to high efficiency boilers. We'll have redundancy throughout the facility now. It'll be a much better system. So
What do you expect
Very
on for the new system?
pardon me?
Expect in terms of a lifespan for the new system?
I would expect 20 years, about what we got out of the last one, maybe more. They do a spectacular job out there with maintenance and staying on top of everything that's required by the manufacturer. So I would suspect we should get 20 plus years out of it.
That's great. Good news.
Great.
Yeah, that's good news, and great on efficiency too.
I move that the board approve the PSA with temperate service.
Second that.
Further discussion or comment on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks a lot, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you all.
Hey, Jason, thanks for getting the colored lights up in the clock tower.
That's really nice, man.
Festive touch.
It is really nice.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Emily, you're on the next one item out. So before we get to you, though, Casey Gannon, we have a PSA with Outback Incorporated. Is Casey here?
He was earlier. Yeah, he's there.
Hi, Commissioner. Sorry about that. Yeah, so this is just a PSA with Outback to provide the porta potties out at the authorized camping site. This is the last step we need to get approval from DPHHS for approval to open that site. So,
Okay, Josh has a question.
Thanks, Casey. Given that this is city ground, what's their role in this at the authorized camping site?
Yep, so this project is split with the city. We have an agreement with them to share all costs. I'm just running it through us since I've been kind of the organizer, and then we will work out the contracts. We will be on a quarterly basis rebalancing any costs incurred for this project with the city. So that's how the funding will work for us.
But we're taking on the work for obvious competency reasons we don't want to get into here in a public setting. Thanks for taking it on.
No need to respond.
For ease of process, we're running it through this, and I'm sure at some point, once we get it all up and running, we'll figure out the best logistics for where the contracts live long term. But
this is fine. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a motion.
Okay.
Let's go forward with this contract without that.
Yeah. Second.
Any further discussion, public comment, or questions from the media on this one, since this might be of interest to folks?
This should be a media-worthy issue.
Okay.
All right.
No
When
questions.
they actually get installed and we have people using them, then it'll be me.
There you go. Right.
Come on.
Good point.
Can I ask a?
We're moving along.
Can I ask a question? Is that okay?
Way to be awake, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said this is the last piece of the puzzle. What do you mean by this? Is this the last thing that you guys needed to do before you can actually get the site up and running?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's good to clarify. So this is just the last piece that Department of Health and Human Services needs to grant us approval to operate a campground. Then we can, we'll get the whole campground set up, and we'll have a health department person come out and check the site to make sure we're in compliance before we can open. So at this point, looking to open in mid-January at this point.
Okay. And then you said it's city and county joint on that. Do you both have to go to the health department for approval? Is that kind of on you guys to figure out county-wise?
The campground approval is through the city. They were the applicant since it is their land. So that application has run through the city.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, Connor.
All right. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks,
Thank
Casey.
you.
Thanks.
All right, now either Emily Brock or Andrew
Saw
Charlie
Emily on there.
We have a 5-year.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Just a minute.
Okay. I have.
Yes. So what we have
around.
Okay, the owl
so
is
this
all
idea-
locked up. Hang on a second, Emily. Jeez. Okay, go for it.
Go for it.
Go for
Thank
it.
you. Please carry on.
Okay. So this, on January 19th, AT&T exercised its option to extend its lease in the Tech District for another 5-year period. This is in accordance with the resolution that you adopted in June. The extension term will begin on December 22nd, 2021, and which is tomorrow. So we're really cutting down to the wire here, and end on December 21st, 2026. It's a confusing agreement that was put together about, 10 years ago, but there's two numbers that you need to know. One is 245,579, and that is the amount of excess tax increment that this lease and the original, which is following the original agreement, it's excess tax increment that we, the county, will pay to the state for the AT&T infrastructure loan. And that will reduce the monthly payments that they have, which go through us. So the second number you need to know is 63,267, which is the monthly payment that we will receive from AT&T, most of which, all except for about 7,000, is a pass through to the state. So in addition to fixing the base rent, which will happen every, one more time at the next lease renewal, we amended this lease in a few other ways. One is that for the third term, we're going to switch from LIBOR to SOFR as an index for determining the interest rate. Two, and as a cleanup matter, and to keep us in good faith with the original agreement, we moved the date from AT&T to exercise its next renewal up about a month so that we can determine the excess tax increment by July, when it would have been remitted to the taxing jurisdictions, and move it to an escrow account when the third extension is signed. And this is in the good faith to the original agreement. And then the third change is that for the third term extension, we're going to cap all excess tax increment that is eligible to pay back the infrastructure loan to $500,000. And this is in case there's a windfall in increment in the district due to the sale of lots that we've had recently to Shadowcast. So if you guys have questions, it's super confusing, but if you have questions about the numbers, the financing, I'm going to defer to Andrew on that. And if you have other questions, I'm happy to help, and Brian is here too. There are a couple, just for posterity, we did put a draft agreement up on the agenda. The final agreement is up there now on Civic Clerk, but when it was first noticed, there was a draft. And all the changes were clarification, grammatical type stuff, and Brian can answer questions about that if you have them. So that is the end of my report.
I have a question. Yeah. So I guess this would be for Andrew. When is that, how much is the infrastructure loan and when will it be paid off? And after it's paid off, will we then get to keep this money if AT&T continues to lease the property?
The loan is, if I remember correctly, somewhere around $5 million. Is that correct, Emily?
I know the remaining principal is around $900,000.
Well, that's for the land lease. The infrastructure loan's much more than that. It'll be paid off at the end of let's see, 2031. It'll be halfway paid off by the end of 2026. The excess tax increment that's generated out of the tax district, or the tech district, it pays down the loan each 5 years.
Andrew, what did that loan buy to infrastructure? What did we get when we borrowed this money?
Well, we didn't borrow it. It was a conduit borrowing through us, and it was with the Montana Board of Investments, and it was with DirecTV, and they borrowed the money to build that structure out there, that great big call center, and we own the land, and so we leased the land to them for a period of the same concurrent period as the MBOI loan, and we're getting a separate payment for that. So it brought high-paying jobs at the time into Missoula, living wage jobs, and certainly a nice facility to work in. And it's a great. If they walked away from the loan, they would have to. If they walked away from it, they would have to pay the loan off first, and we would end up with the property. So.
Okay, and at some point the loan would be paid off, and then that money that they pay in the lease would just go to us. Is that correct? Or am I interpreting it wrong?
After the loan's paid off 2031, I'm not sure what will be done with the property, to tell you the truth. It'll be paid off, they'll own it. And the district will have sunsetted it in 2026, correct, Emily?
Yeah, my understanding is that when the loan is paid off, they will own the property and the building.
So once the district sunsets
in 26,
then the
I guess I'm getting stuck on language here, and that the word lease is in there, and it sounds like we are owning the property, they're renting it from us, but then instead of us keeping the rent money like a landlord, we're using the rent money that should go to us to pay off a loan with the state. But in actuality, I'm understanding lease isn't quite the right terminology.
That's almost correct. 55,000 of it goes to pay off the loan. And is this right, Andrew? 55,000 goes to pay off the loan and 7,000 comes to us.
That's correct.
Right, that we're not giving them a break on the lease so we can help them pay off the loan. They're actually paying off the loan and they're paying us rent for a lease. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're two separate agreements. One is with the state and we're a party to, and that's the loan agreement, and that's 50 some odd thousand dollars a year. The other one is for the land itself, and we're getting about $7,000 a month, and that's the one that's tied. It used to be tied to LIBOR, but LIBOR is going away as an overnight interest rate barometer. So we're using the secured overnight financing rate, which is developed by the Federal Reserve. It's a little bit lower.
So with this lease, is this kind of a lease to own sort of thing? So when they're done with the lease, they own the property?
Yes, it is.
And then, okay, now it's becoming more clear to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for going through that, Josh, because I was
Emily, not afraid to be a boneheaded public.
Emily, come again at, you mentioned a $500,000 cap earlier.
I got that.
Yeah, so we're going to be transferring, the way that the original agreement is set up is that at the end of every kind of lease period, we take all the excess tax increment in the district, which right now they're the only, the main property owner. And we give that money after our expenses to the state to pay down the principal. And that's just how it was set up. I don't know what deals were made. That's just the way that it was. Because that number is increasing and because we've sold other land in the tech district, there's potential for there to be a lot of excess tax increment after, Shadowcast develops. And so we have capped it so that no matter what, if there's $1 million in excess tax increment in the district, next time we come to the commission, it's capped so that we will only pay the state up to $500,000.
Which is really, I think this is super important because then we can use that money to do some really interesting, great projects bubbling along around housing. I'm just trying to project backwards. There was a time when there wasn't backwards. Right? So there was a time when you didn't see a now hiring sign everywhere, and we needed good paying jobs in Missoula County. And people at the state and people in Missoula thought, how about we create this situation where we can use tax increment in a TED to actually pay off a loan that would catalyze the arrival and creation of this business that would hire a whole bunch of people. So in some other places, they give property tax breaks to 3M or to some other giant company to get them to move to town and hire a bunch of folks. This is cut from the same cloth of economic development as that. Years ago, other people in our seats and at the state said, here's a way we can get these people to borrow money to build a big facility, but they don't have to pay it back out of their proceeds. They can pay it back out of what would have been property taxes. We create this district. And by allowing them to do that, to not have to pay the loan off through their profits, they could actually afford to come here, choose us, moving to Billings, and hire people out there at DirecTV. Now, it does seem a little bit historically out of place because we're in a whole different world right now. My guess is that's what happened.
That'll change.
I'm sure it was, although it's yeah. hindsight's 2020. It's
Yeah,
an
I'm
awfully
just making it up, so.
Convoluted, sort of.
But it functions like a subsidy that would get them here.
Well,
Yes,
Josh,
that's exactly right. It's
Josh,
a
Andrew.
subsidy that was put in place 15
Andrew.
years ago.
Andrew, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to mention that their loan isn't being entirely paid off by Tech District increment proceeds. They're paying a large portion of that loan each month on their own. We're getting like $65,000 a month from AT&T. And so the majority of that's going towards those loan payments. Now they've been able to offset 5 years worth of loan payments with $240 some odd thousand, but they're still putting in a good deal. The money.
That was the deal that was struck way back when. We'll give you a break on this. Yeah, tax increment. It was totally fine.
Yeah.
And
basically, they were the only people generating any taxes there, and they still are until now, and so that's why we have the cap.
I appreciate what Emily and Andrew are doing on putting a cap on this, because otherwise, if we didn't, we would sell this shadow cast property, and that money would go this direction instead of being out there for us to do something better.
That was very true. Okay, how about a motion?
Did Brian want to say anything?
No, I think Emily and Andrew have given you the lay of the land, but I'm here if you have any other questions.
No, I move that the board approve the second 5-year lease extension with AT&T DirecTV.
Second that.
Any further discussion, public comment, or questions from the media? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Emily. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Brian, for your work on this. Last but not least, we have a correspondence item. Chet, do you want to describe the letter regarding wildfire adapted Missoula?
Yeah, you bet. Good morning, Dave, commissioners. So this letter to Wildfire Adapted Missoula is the latest in that process. We have had comments for the scoping phase of Wildfire Adapted Missoula, which is a Forest Service project. By the way, I should have said that up front. But during the analysis phase for that project, we did submit comments for scoping. We submitted comments for the environmental assessment phase of that, which leads us to the record of decision portion of their process. And so they've issued that record of decision as well as response to comments for all of those entities that submitted comments during the EA. We took a look at the response to those comments that were in our letter. Largely, we've commented on the importance of the home ignition zone relative to community wildfire resiliency. And I think it's fair to say that we haven't necessarily felt like those concerns have been heard as well as we might have liked, although I would say that the conversation has continued to move forward to include other agencies, and I think there's a good opportunity to expand that into the future. Our comment letter here is during the objection phase of the Forest Service analysis process. Typically, you'd issue an objection letter relative to a specific piece of either their analysis or their decision moving forward. I think the way I would frame our comment here is to really encourage some further dialogue to push forward in hopefully getting better understanding of the importance of the home ignition zone. And by and large, that's the content of our letter, is to say not so much that this is a specific objection, but we're commenting during that period to hopefully encourage further dialogue to occur, and also following up with our intent to reach out to Carolyn Upton, the forest supervisor for the Lolo, and just pursue whatever paths forward we can to collectively create a better understanding of community wildfire resiliency. So it was maybe just a little long-winded. There's a lot of parts and pieces there. There've certainly been a lot of conversations, including those with Carolyn Upton, folks with the DNRC, and others, Jack Cohen, who's really well known in this world of home ignition zones. So there's been a lot of consultation, and I think this is just the next step, hopefully, in a conversation that can get us closer to protecting our communities in regard to wildfire.
Thanks, Chad. So this will be coming around to us via DocuSign. Any questions, comments?
No, thanks everyone for crafting
thanks.
this.
This is a big chunk of work.
Yeah.
Dave, you put a lot into this. Do you have anything to say to?
No, I think this is a good constructive path forward that will, as Chet mentioned, keep the engagement and dialogue going with the Forest Service.
Is there, and then maybe this isn't the right place for this, but is there language or action that would satisfy this letter? Like, what do you mean? Like that, that we haven't, that we've pushed and pushed and pushed and said, like, you know, HIZ, but what we're, the Forest Service is able to, like, I don't want to write it for them, but essentially, like, what would be satisfying
in their language
to Jack, to us?
Well, I think we've spelled that out time and again, and there's still an opportunity to have some of that language, I think, reflected in the record of a modified record of decision for the project. Whether or not we're able to get there for the record of decision document or not is one question, but I think certainly as the projects get implemented, there will be opportunities in the Forest Service's public outreach and communication to reflect some of our sentiments. So I'm
just hoping that we can be clear, or do they need some clarity? Like,
well, I think we've provided as much clarity as we can, and they responded to us in our comments to the environmental assessment. And basically this letter is a response back, recognizing necessarily been fully addressed to our satisfaction, but also recognizing that there are some other things on our end that we can start work on, like updating our community wildfire protection plan, which admittedly may need to have the dust blown off of it. And so that's part of the collaborative back and forth.
and I hope the dialogue continues and it isn't combative and we like shut each other out.
Dave, do you feel like there's a link between this letter, this issue, WHAM, and the real frustration we heard from agency land managers a few months ago around getting controlled burns done out on the landscape?
I think it's part of it. It's also partially just there's 100 years of institutional inertia focused on fire control, and also I think some fundamental lack of awareness that the sort of community destruction that we see, whether it's in communities abutting forest lands or Denton, Montana, which there's not a tree in sight, it has much more to do with what you do within your home ignition zone than some of the forest treatments that are sometimes promised as the means to protect your community, which there might be good reasons to do those forest treatments for landscape ecology or restoration purposes, but nobody's hope should be elevated that that's going to appreciably do anything to save your home.
Yeah, my concern was that the Forest Service was leaning on home safety, community safety as a rationale for doing forest treatments because they didn't believe that ecological restoration would sell. And if that is indeed the case, I would encourage them to have the courage of their convictions. Ecological restoration is super important, and I believe would sell, especially in this time of climate change.
And especially in this place.
In this community, absolutely.
So I think that's all part of the dialogue going forward.
Thanks so much, Chet.
Yeah, Connor, do you have any questions on this, or is this just too much mumbo jumbo?
I'll have to admit that I will take some time to review it because it's a little but I'm trying.
It's really powerful stuff.
No,
so if you have time in your day, I'd encourage you to take a hard look and reach out to Chet or Dave.
Yeah, where would be the best to find some background information on it?
Chet,
Connor, are you looking for? Go ahead, Dave.
Well, you can either speak to that here, or maybe you and Connor could
just talk offline and get him up to speed.
Yeah, if you're available, Chet, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's fine. I can. I don't know if you want me to give you a call on the phone.
Yep. Let me put my. I'll put my email in the chat, and you can send me an email, and then I'll send you my number if that works.
That sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Connor.
All right, Chris's hand.
Chris?
Sorry, Commissioners, not for this item, but just before you end here, we did actually have one item added to the agenda that may not be on your printed versions from Karen Harrison. So I just wanted to make sure we jump back to that, and I'll bring you in an updated agenda with that on it.
All right.
Are we taking that off now?
Is that right now, Chris?
I'm sorry, what's it?
I think he's coming over
Yeah,
in person.
Yeah,
Are you
I'll print it out right now.
Okay, I cannot wait.
With bated breath.
Well, thanks, commissioners. And Annie, will I hope all those edits made sense to you in terms of the final version. Let me know if there's anything more I can do there. And then when you have that final signed, if you want to just email to me, I'll make sure it gets uploaded in the Forest Services system.
Thank you.
And so while we're waiting for Chris with the mystery agenda item, anything else?
He got tied up.
Okay, just hang with us. I guess there's more business yet to do.
Sorry, she doesn't have that request to lift the sick leave cap.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Karen Harrison.
Those are just Christy pages in part one Dave has.
Okay. Karen, are you out there? Or Chris, do you want to speak for Karen?
This is a good Christmas item, I think.
Yeah.
It
It
is.
sort of reeks of generosity and giving.
You bet. Sorry about that, commissioners. So it looks like Karen is having a Teams issue, which I know will come as a surprise to everyone this morning. So commissioners, yeah, as I say, this is a request for you to allow an exemption to your sick leave donation policy for a long-term employee out at the detention facility who's having some health issues. So this would raise the cap beyond the normal 240 hours of sick leave that can be donated in hopes that they'll be able to return to work in late January.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Let's do this.
Yeah, that sounds like a motion, and I will second that. Let's get this person the sick leave they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Any further discussion on this or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks for staying on top of us.
Yeah, really. Good
Chris.
job, Chris, as usual.
Any other late breaking agenda items? All right. Well, everyone have a very happy
Great
holiday
holiday.
season here, and this is our last admin of 2021.
Woo woo.
Woo!
Happy
Last
winter
admin
solstice.
of this latest round of your chairing.
Yes, I've already passed the beer
passed? Yep.
stein with the
Biochar.
With the
biochar.
biochar.
Juanita
We'll see
will
you
be cracking the whip come January.
January.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
See you all then.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.